Welcome to the Michele Tafoya podcast. Virginia Tech is a very good school, but they have what's called a bias response team. This could go to the Supreme Court, and I'm going to explain to you why. And I'm also going to tell you why this should not exist in the first place. That's coming up.
Welcome to the Michele Tafoya podcast.
This is a headline from the Wall Street Journal opinion page. Virginia Tech's bias response team and the First Amendment. A Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals dissent is a signal flare for the Supreme Court to take this case. And I couldn't agree more. You know, people want to end sexism. They want to end racism. They want to end every ism that there is. But you cannot legislate people's feelings. You cannot change people's implicit views of the world. You know what you can change? Your reaction to them. The one mind you can legislate is your own. And you can say to yourself, this guy's a jerk. So therefore, I'm not really going to take what he says very seriously. And I'm going to ignore it. And I don't need him in my life or her in my life. Whatever. But what we're seeing more and more pop up, particularly on college campuses, and I would imagine we're going to see it on high school campuses as well, are these teams that are going to say, hey, do you feel like you've had a microaggression toward you? Come talk to us and we will speak to that person and maybe even discipline them. Yes, folks, that is going on. And I'm going to tell you about it because it's going on at Virginia Tech, and it's a really interesting case that could end up playing out on the national stage. You're going to want to hear this because actually, again, it's terrifying for those of us who are free speech absolutists. And those of you who are not free speech absolutists, I challenge you to listen to this and tell me why. But first, ladies and gentlemen, breaking news. Genucel has upgraded their most popular package to feature their top-selling deep-firming vitamin C serum plus ultra retinol moisturizer with natural retinol alternatives. Right now, you can take advantage of this offer, and it's a limited time package, 70% off. So why would you waste your time and your money getting work done when you can get Genucel skincare shipped straight to your door? Here's a review from Robert in Blessing, Texas. This comes from Genucel.com. I purchased Genucel as a gift for my girlfriend. She said she saw results so fast, so we joined the concierge program immediately. It's honestly the best skincare she's ever used and is extremely impressed with all the Genucel products. Quick aside, so am I. I'm a user. Her skin is noticeably softer and smoother. I can see and feel a difference too. She was already beautiful, and Genucel has made her more beautiful. Well, listen. I stand by all of that. I use all of Genucel's products and I love them. Genucel's Secret, it's a family recipe for over 20 years. It's safe for all skin types. It's great for men and women. It's made by a compounding pharmacist in small batches, always safe, cruelty-free, and natural. So go to Genucel.com/Michele, Michele, and save over 70% off their most popular package featuring both the Genucel Ultra Retinol and Genucel Firming Serum. Do not wait. Go to Genucel.com/Michele, Genucel.com/Michele. Get a complimentary spa essentials box with every package order, plus free upgrade to priority shipping. Genucel.com/Michele. Most of you know by now, I am a free speech absolutist. What do I mean by that? I don't believe words can necessarily be harmful. I think that speech is a thing that comes out of a person's mouth or is written on paper, and then it's up to you to decide how you want to receive it. So again, here's the headline. Virginia Tech's bias response team and the First Amendment, a Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals dissent, is a signal flare for the Supreme Court to take this case. I agree. Here we go. This is June 11th. The advertising catchphrase, see something, say something, calls to mind suspicious packages that might be bombs. See something, say something. You see it at the airport, you know. But at Virginia Tech, that slogan applies to the school's official Bias Intervention and Response Team, or BIRT, BERT. We're going to refer to it as BERT. Hokies are encouraged to report one another's ill-considered opinions or crass jokes. Hokies, that's the mascot at Virginia Tech. So if you're going to school there and someone overhears you say something that they deem, not necessarily that you thought it was, but that they deem sexist, racist, or, I'll give you the descriptions in a minute because it goes far beyond anything that's reasonable. So if you say a crass joke, they can report you to Bert. Okay? On May 31st, the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals declined to end this, but there was a dissent written by veteran Judge J. Harvey Wilkinson III. And his dissent, the Wall Street Journal says, is a persuasive signal flare for the Supreme Court to take this case and defend free speech. Please, always, yes. So at Virginia Tech, reports can be filed anonymously, and even if the remark at issue is determined to be covered by the First Amendment. The Bert can invite the student and the complainer to a quote-unquote voluntary conversation at the dean's office. Now, there's a group called Speech First. They sued, arguing that the school's policies effectively chill protected expression. But in a 2-1 ruling, the Fourth Circuit panel declined to grant an injunction. So here's this group saying, hey, free speech is free speech. It's covered. You can't have this committee, this Bert at Virginia Tech, to invite students and their accusers to appear before them because someone said something someone found offensive. The appeals court said, we're staying out of this. Judge Diana Gribben-Motz, an appointee of President Clinton, writes for the majority that the Bert itself lacks power to punish students. And if students ignore the invite to the dean's office, nothing happens. Here's a quote from her majority statement. We cannot accept Speech First's argument that the Bert process is so burdensome that an objectively reasonable student would self-censor to avoid encountering it. Notice a very key phrase here, an objectively reasonable student. Thanks to things like Bert, students are no longer objectively reasonable. So there's the first flaw in her argument. She says, Speech First has not shown that the bias policy credibly threatens injury to the organization's members. Now, again, this was a 2-1 vote by the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals. And here's the dissenter. Judge Wilkinson exposes the danger to free speech on campus that Judge Motz ignores. See, this is a more realistic view. He envisions a 19-year-old student, right? Like a sophomore, freshman maybe, thinking through whether to join in a class debate. So here's the 19-year-old student sitting in a class and there's a debate going on. She remembers hearing about the university's bias intervention and response team, the veteran judge writes. She can't remember how bias is defined, but she knows that biased speech can be reported anonymously online. And she vaguely remembers that those reported for bias will be invited to a meeting with the dean of students or referred to another university office. Sounds like it would be smarter to shut up, no? Remember, we're talking about 19, 18, 19, 20-year-olds. Maybe you're brand new on campus. Maybe you've heard of this Bert. And I'm not getting involved in that debate. I'm not going to say what I really believe. This is kind of like the episodes we did on high school debate, where these judges come in with their paradigms, with their point of views that tell you, hey, if you're going to say anyone is illegal, I'm going to end the debate, you're going to lose, and I'm going to talk to your coach. Yes, that's for real. If you missed those episodes, go back and find them. That's basically what is happening here. This organization, if they get an anonymous report online, so let's say that anonymous report, by the way, comes from someone who absolutely hates your guts and wants to make your life miserable. And so they report, oh, so-and-so told a dirty joke in front of some of us. We are offended. We don't like it. We're going to anonymously report this person. And now the person gets the invite to the dean's office. It's optional, they say. But with that hanging over your shoulder, how are you going to proceed with the rest of your semester? Aren't you going to assume that this could negatively impact things? I would, and I think I'm reasonably objective. Judge Wilkinson says the BERT includes representatives. Get this. You ready? Hope you're sitting down. Judge Wilkinson says the BERT includes representatives from the Office of Student Conduct and also, amazingly, the Virginia Tech Police Department. Quote unquote bias incidents can occur off campus or even on social media. So if you are a student and you have a particular bias, and by the way, among us who does not, we all have biases one way or the other. We just do. And yes, some of them are negative. Grow up and learn to deal with it, because it's up to you as to whether or not that bias affects you. And if you want to go fight it out, that's on you, but sticks and stones, baby. Sorry to be crass, but that's the way I feel about it. So these bias incidents can take place off campus or on social media. So you can be out at a pub off campus, have a couple of beers, and say something really stupid, and someone reports it anonymously online, and the next thing you know, you're invited to speak to the dean and campus police. This is freaking communist, dictatorship, authoritarianistic. This is freaking crazy. Okay, now get ready. And the Wall Street Journal encourages you to take a deep breath here. So these statements of bias incidents, they are defined as, take a deep breath, quote, expressions against a person or group because of the person's or group's age, color, disability, gender, including pregnancy, gender identity, gender expression, genetic information, national origin, political affiliation, race, religion, sexual orientation, veteran status, or any other basis protected by law. This definition is so loose, Judge Wilkinson says, that, quote, almost anything could be framed as a bias incident. No kidding. When you've got that broad an interpretation of where bias can happen and what it includes, everyone's going to be invited in front of this BERT. This is insanity. The judge cites a few specific examples from the court record, and they are unbelievable. This is according to the Wall Street Journal editorial board. One was, quote, a report that a student told a joke that included Caitlyn Jenner's dead name during a classroom lecture. Another was, quote, a report that a student in a university residence hall overheard several male students privately talking crap about the women who were playing in a snowball fight, calling them not athletic. So if you can't handle that, where do you see yourself in 5 years and 10 years? So someone heard a bunch of dudes talking about some women playing in a snowball fight and said they weren't athletic and reported that as bias. Judge Wilkinson adds, quote, the cure for distasteful speech is tasteful dialogue, not the conversion of an illustrious campus into a First Amendment dead zone. Bravo, Judge Wilkinson. Bravo. We're trying to erase anything that upsets us in the very, very least. In the very least. The constitutional question deserves to be heard by the Supreme Court on the free speech merits. Other circuits have taken the view that Judge Wilkinson does in dissent. Virginia Tech needs a legal intervention that sets an example for campus censors nationwide. And the majority on the Fourth Circuit panel needs a First Amendment tutorial from the justices. Have we forgotten that speech, even the kind of speech we abhor, is protected by the First Amendment? And you don't judge it by or respond to it by throwing someone in front of a board that includes campus police. My God, this is terrifying. John Berg, you have something to say.
Yeah, to answer your question, I think we have forgotten the importance, the critical circumstances created by free speech. The left can look at every progressive thing they've ever done and kiss it goodbye if they want to get rid of free speech. That is how the left has made progress. And I like yourself, I'm a free speech purist. I believe I can absolutely disagree with anybody and still believe that they have the right to say what they want to say. I am not going to understand what they actually think if they are not free to tell me what they think. And I'm sorry, this is the idea that we have to teach administrators at a college and go back over the merits of free speech is absurd. They understand the concept of free speech. When there's free speech, their power is diminished. Their influence is diminished. That's what this is part of. You mentioned the Soviets, you mentioned, Marxism. I can't remember how you phrased it.
Authoritarianism.
Immediately once the Soviets were set up in the various city centers in the Soviet Union after the revolution, they set up means to do just this, to report people for being insufficiently revolutionary, whether they are your friend, a coworker, an acquaintance, or your own wife or husband. Kids were encouraged to rat their parents out for saying things that undermine the revolution. This is pure Marxism, so it's not at all a surprise that a bunch of idiot college professors and a bunch of administrators would go down this route. I'd like to know when we're all going to acknowledge we have a Marxist problem in the universities. They are following it to a T. They are attempting to execute a cultural revolution within a free society.
We need to acknowledge it. And that's why I like to bring these articles to the fore, these issues to the fore, and remind people how insane this is. This is America. Now, the appeals court ruled 2-1 to leave this in place, saying, oh, this isn't going to scare students into presenting themselves in front of this BERT. This is, you don't have to. This is not a big burden. The hell it's not. It's going to hang over your little shoulder and in the back of your mind for as long as you're a student at Virginia Tech if you've received one of these invitations. And God only knows how people will abuse this. Again, throw their enemies in front of this group, anonymously report things that are just so stupid. Learn to deal with speech you don't like. This is how we continue to weaken our young people in America, by telling them that if they hear speech they don't like, they have been harmed. They have been harmed. You have not been harmed unless you choose to be harmed. You are offended when you choose to be offended. And that person that's trying to offend you, they may be trying like hell to offend you. It's up to you and your mind to say, sorry, that's just not going to, get by me and worry me too much. It's just not. That's how I handle all the crap on Twitter. And I get plenty of it. I could sit here and throw out microaggression accusations all day long. Hell, macroaggression accusations. Folks, free speech is a cornerstone to your freedom to say what you believe, say it strongly, and not worry about repercussions, whether it's from the government or your university. This is chilling. This is chilling. And we're going to need some courage to continue to stand up to this. I love that this is in the Wall Street Journal. I'm going to tweet it out. If you follow me at Michele _Tafoya, you will see it. And I really do hope this makes it all the way to the Supreme Court. I truly do. Folks, the First Amendment is on the line in this particular case. And if it's here, it's probably in a lot more places that you don't even realize. So as I always say, be brave and do good. And thanks for listening.